Critics love to say that Christians are hypocrites. They'll say, well, you pick and choose verses from the Old Testament about homosexuality, but then you go out and you'll wear mixed fabrics, you'll eat bacon, and ignore half of the Old Testament. The claim is that we're just cherry picking what's convenient from the Bible. And if you've ever been hit with this type of a gotcha question, or maybe you've asked it yourself, then you already know that it's a hard question to answer. And sometimes, if you get caught off guard, you may not have an answer at all. But here's what 30 years of ministry and seminary training has taught me. We are not cherry picking from the Old Testament. There was an actual fundamental shift in the New Testament regarding how we relate to God that then dictates how we interpret the Old Testament. And it all started with a giant sheet falling from heaven. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you three things. First, the exact moment that God declared the old food laws obsolete. Second, why we're free from the entire Mosaic Law, not just parts of it. And third, why something like murder is still wrong even though we're not under the law. I call this the freedom framework. And once you see it, you'll never read the Old Testament the same way again. So let's start with the moment everything changed. Acts chapter 10, Peter, one of Jesus' closest disciples, is on a rooftop in Joppa and he's starving. But Peter wasn't just any hungry guy. He was a devout Jew who had never broken kosher law. Then he falls into a trance, and what he sees is really bizarre. There's a giant sheet that descends from heaven, and it's filled with all types of pigs and shellfish and reptiles, everything the law of Moses explicitly forbid that they eat, and then a voice speaks. Acts chapter 10, verse 13 says, "Rise, Peter, kill and eat." Just a few simple words. And Peter, faithful, he's the rule-following Peter, says, "Not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean." Now pause for just a moment. Why would God command Peter to break the kosher laws? Was God testing him? Was this a trick? No, it's not at all. In fact, verse 15 gives us the answer. What God hath cleansed, thou shalt not call common. See, God wasn't testing Peter. He was declaring that the dietary laws were obsolete. And this wasn't just about bacon. It was about something way bigger. Because in that same vision, the one about the food coming down on the sheet was actually about people. And if you don't understand why, then the whole New Testament falls apart. So let me show you. Right after the vision, 3 men showed up at Peter's door. They're sent by a Roman centurion named Cornelius, a Gentile, and they were asking Peter to come to his house. Now, for a Jew in the first century, entering a Gentile's home meant becoming ceremonially unclean. It was forbidden. But Peter goes anyway. Why? Because the vision wasn't just about shrimp and pork chops. It was about this. Acts chapter 10, verse 28. God hath showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean. See, the sheet full of unclean animals was symbolic. God was saying the gospel isn't just for Jews anymore, it's for everyone. And the old barriers, the food laws, the purity rituals, the walls between the Jews and the Gentiles, they're coming down. So when skeptics say, you Christians ignore the dietary laws, they're right. We do. Because God Himself told us to. It's not rebellion, it's obedience to the new covenant. But that raises an even harder question. If we're free from the dietary laws, are we free from the entire law? And if so, why do Christians still say murder and theft are wrong? That's where this freedom framework comes in. Here's what most Christians get wrong on this issue. They'll say, well, there are 3 types of laws: civil, ceremonial, and moral. And we don't follow the moral ones, or we only follow the moral ones. But that's not what Paul teaches in Galatians. Paul is actually crystal clear that we are set free from the law as a whole, not just parts of it, the entire Mosaic covenant. In Galatians 3, verse 10, Paul says, "For as many are of the works of the law are under the curse, for it is written, Cursed is everyone that continueth not in all things which are written in the book of the law to do them." Notice that word, all. The law was a package deal. You couldn't pick civil laws and skip ceremonial ones. It was really all or nothing. And Paul's point is this: Christ has freed us from the entire system. But wait, you may say, if we're free from the whole law, does that mean that murder is suddenly okay? Can we just ignore the 10 Commandments? And the answer to that is no, and here's why. See, the 10 Commandments aren't part of the Mosaic Law in the same way that everything else was. They're transcendent. See, murder was wrong before the law was given. Murder was wrong when Cain killed Abel. Adultery, theft, lying, these were all moral evils before Sinai, during Sinai, and after the cross. Why? Because they reflect God's unchanging character, not a temporary covenant with Israel. See, the Mosaic Law, the 613 commandments, the sacrifices, the dietary restrictions, that was added later. Galatians 3:10 asks, "Wherefore then serveth the law?" And Paul answers that. He says, "It was added because of transgression, till the seed should come." Till the seed should come. The law had an expiration date. The moral standards of God's character, however, do not. So Christians aren't picking and choosing. We're recognizing that the Mosaic covenant has been fulfilled while God's eternal standards still remain. But here's the part that seals it, and it's something Jesus said that often skeptics constantly misquote. In Matthew 5, verse 17, Jesus says, "Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I'm not come to destroy, but to fulfill." See, skeptics read that and say, see, Jesus said the law still stands, but they're missing the word fulfill. Fulfill doesn't mean to keep doing forever. It means something that is completed or to complete the purpose of. Let me give you an analogy. Imagine you have a mortgage. You're making the payments for several years. Then one day you make the final payment and the contract is fulfilled. You don't keep making payments. Why? Because the requirement has been met. You're not breaking the contract by stopping. You've completed the contract. And see, that's what Jesus did with the ceremonial laws. He didn't abolish them. He fulfilled them. He became the final sacrifice. He became the ultimate Passover lamb, the perfect high priest. Hebrews 10:10 says, "We are sanctified through the offering of the body of Jesus Christ once for all." Once for all. Not once and then keep doing it, but once. Finished. Fulfilled. So Christians aren't ignoring the Old Testament. We're standing on the other side of the cross where the work is already done. But there's one more piece to this that really changes everything that we need to be confident, and that's found in Galatians chapter 3. It gives us the clearest picture. Paul writes, "Wherefore the law was our schoolmaster to bring us unto Christ, that we might be justified by faith. But after that faith has come, we are no longer under the schoolmaster." See, the law was a schoolmaster. It was a tutor. The law's job, the entire Mosaic system, was to teach us that we couldn't save ourselves. Every sacrifice, every ritual, every impossible standard was designed to point us to our need for a Savior. But once the Savior arrived, the tutor's job was done. We're not under the law anymore, not any of it. And here's the beautiful part. Being free from the law isn't about license to sin, it's about liberty. Paul goes on in Galatians 5:1 and he says, "Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ hath made you free, and be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage." We're not free to do whatever we want. We're free to love God, to love our neighbors from our heart, not because of legal code that demands it, but because we've been transformed by God's grace. Romans chapter 6 says it plainly, "For sin shall not have dominion over you, for ye are not under law, but under grace." So the next time someone hits you with the, Christians just pick and choose argument, you can look them in the eye and say this: we don't ignore the Old Testament law because it's inconvenient. We're free from it because Jesus fulfilled the entire Mosaic covenant. The dietary laws, the sacrifices, the civil codes, it was the tutor pointing us to Jesus Christ. And the moral standards that existed before Moses, during Moses, and after the cross, they didn't come from the law. They came from the unchanging character of God Himself. Hey, if this video has shifted how you see the Old Testament, would you do me a favor and hit the like button? I want to know how this landed in your heart. And if you want more videos like it, breaking down the gotcha questions that skeptics love to ask, hit the subscribe button. You won't want to miss out on our next few videos.